Hello, my name is Reverend Angelia Swartz Coleman, PhDE. Some of you know me and some of you don't. Excuse me. I am reading this because I am losing my short-term memory. Some of you may know me, others may not. For those of you who don't know me, here's a little bit about my life. I was born and raised in Louisville, Kentucky. I am multi-ethnic. I was born with a deformed knee. I am one of the few people on earth who is allergic to chlorophyll. So I had my tonsils and adenoids out and ear tubes in at an early age. I grew up in a home where I was mentally and emotionally abused. My parents didn't know any better. That's the way they were raised. I was left with a trusted family member who molested me from the ages of 6 to 8. This family member also raped me when I was 12 years old. I went to counseling through school, but not outside of school because my parents thought it would make them look bad. I was sexually assaulted at age 13 by a neighborhood boy. My parents would do nothing about it because they said it was my fault for being alone with him. I was sexually assaulted at age 14 by a friend of a friend. Once again, my parents said that it was my fault for going to my friend's house. As you can imagine, I had several mental problems due to these incidents. I graduated from Marion Seymour High School in 1985. I married my high school sweetheart the weekend after my 18th birthday. I started working temp jobs for places and got a full-time job through doing that at a warehouse. I ended up getting divorced just 4 years after my marriage. I had a few failed relationships. When I was 22, I was raped by a man, and my boyfriend was the one who set it up. He said that he was trying to teach me a lesson. I had to go back to therapy and work on ridding myself of more painful things. Then I worked in sales. Then I worked at telemarketing for 12 years. During that time, I went to counseling to address memories and feelings that I had repressed. I also started going to group therapy for survivors of child abuse. During that time, I remarried and had my 3 wonderful sons who taught me about unconditional love. I worked at a nursing home for 2 years where I injured my triceps, my knees, and my back. I was diagnosed with osteoarthritis. I went to work at a daycare so I could take my youngest son with me. I worked there for 3 years. During that time, I became an ordained minister. In 2004, I started a ministry, Works of Heart Ministry, Outreach, and Education. We serve survivors of abuse, sexual assault, and molestation. I started working out of my car, making house calls. One day, at the daycare, I had to lift a 62-pound 2-year-old, which in my opinion is child abuse right there. Why is your 2-year-old 62 pounds? And that resulted in 4 slipped discs and a hip injury. So my doctor said that I had to switch to a desk job. She said if I kept doing physical jobs, I was going to end up breaking my back or my pelvis. X-rays show that I had osteosclerosis with myelofibrosis. While I was working there, a relative passed away and left me some money. I decided that I wanted to go back to school. My best grades were in psychology, and I wanted to try and see if I could be a psychologist. I got my career diploma in child development and psychology. Then I got a job as a legal receptionist. I only worked there for about 5 months. I continued my studies towards my associate's degree in psychology. I was looking for a job in a psychologist's office, and I found one. My marriage fell apart and ended 2 years after that. I was a single mother with 3 sons, so I worked part-time and relied on child support for the rest of my income. 2 of my sons were ECE students, and the other had Asperger's. So I didn't feel like I could leave them home alone for very long after school. I got involved in the school's SBDM council and started studying education, earning CEUs at our local school board. I became an adult education teacher through our county school system and taught through them for 3 years. A woman who ran a local healing house let me rent some space from her, so I then had an office for works of art. During that time, I studied Reiki and natural complementary healing and got my Reiki Master certification. I offered ministerial services, life coaching, and adult ed classes, as well as charity teas for local charities. Several agencies in town had me teaching at their locations. I also got my Level 1 and Level 2 certification for psychological first aid from the Kentucky Community Crisis Response Board. For a while, things were fine. My ex-husband would come over and babysit for me. Then I left the psychologist's office and became the office manager of a counseling center. After working at the psychologist's office and seeing how things were run, and the red tape and problems that were required to be a psychologist, I decided that that wasn't for me. The good thing about that was that the owner of the counseling center let me run works of art out of our offices. I decided life coaching and being a minister were more in line with what I had in mind than the clinical coldness that you have to show your clients as a psychologist. I started running support groups, adult ed classes, and doing life coaching and Reiki from my office. During this time, we would get calls from women who'd been abused asking for help, saying that they couldn't get in anywhere and needed help. I repeatedly said that someone needs to provide more services to these survivors. Eventually, after saying that one day, I heard the still small voice of God say, "Why don't you do something about it?" So I told a friend, and I would like to start a women's center that would provide counseling and help to those people. She got me in touch with a person who got me in touch with a person, and then Healing Families Lives. Oh my gosh, I can't talk today. Healing Families Lives Incorporated was up and running 4 months later. It's a 501c3 organization that provides psychological first aid, counseling referrals to abusers who want to get help, adult educational programs, life coaching, speaking, mentoring, and some career training to individuals and families affected by domestic abuse, sexual assault, or molestation. We were the fiscal sponsor of the Butterfly Center, which helps to empower women. During that time, my health continued to decline. I was unable to work every day without having back spasms on the drive home. Excuse me. I cut back and cut back until it made no sense for me to work for someone else part-time anymore. It cost me more to work with clothing, car maintenance, gasoline, and insurance than I was making. So I left that job. I found a massage therapist who was willing to let me rent space in his back room. He just took a percentage. So I continued to run Works of Heart and Healing Families Lives from there, only coming in for appointments. During that time, I continued my education via online and distance study schools. I got my Associate of Science degree in Psychology and Social Science with minors in the history of psychology, law, poverty studies, political science, psychological linguistics, science and statistics, and cognitive development. I got my Bachelor's of Science in Cognitive Development and Social Sciences. Excuse me. My Master's of Science in Abnormal Psychology and Social Science, and my PhD in Biological Psychology and Social Science with minors in Leading World Economics, Developmental Psychology, Environment and Behavior, Language Development, Personality Development, Research Methods, Social Psychology, Tests and Measurements, Learning, and Senses and Perceptions. My PhD is an equivalency, meaning that I did all of my coursework, but did not write a dissertation or apply for an internship because I had no desire to be a licensed psychologist. I just wanted this information to be able to help my clients to the best of my ability. I knew I could not work hours anymore anyway to become a licensed psychologist. I opened a consulting business to help other providers with clients who suffered from PTSD due to abuse. My pain level continued to increase. I had to have several surgeries, which rendered me unable to do my work for a while. I applied for disability 8 times. I had 5 different lawyers. The general consensus is that my disease, osteosclerosis with myelofibrosis, is not on the SSA's list of disabling diseases. It is a genetic disease, which is inherited from the Welsh. They call it mermaid's disease. It is a disease where the bones get damaged easily, then put a coating of ivory or calcium on the bones. This further damages the inner bone and causes pieces of it to go into the marrow cavity, splitting up the bone marrow and decreasing its efficiency. The massage therapist who I was renting from moved, and I just went back to running works of art and healing families' lives from home, running appointments in my car. Working from home, I was able to work when I could. And the business picked up, and the charity started becoming self-sufficient. Then I started feeling tired and having migraines. So, my doctor did blood work, which showed that my muscles are now producing too much waste product and my red cells are enlarging. It was told to me in 2004 that this might happen. There is always the possibility of bone cancer with this disease. I was told my spleen may enlarge, which it has already, and may rupture. Not a big deal. I can live without a spleen. My liver may fail. It has already shown decreased function in blood work. I will not be a candidate for a transplant because of the underlying disease. Bone marrow transplants only have a 2% chance in this disease, so I'm not going to put any of my family through that. The enlarged blood cells are less stable and more prone to clotting. So I may have a heart attack or stroke at any minute due to blood clots. Near the end, the white cells may decide to attack them, and I end up with leukemia. So, I have been given 3 to 10 years to live, with a slim possibility of 20, the longest anyone has lived with this blood disorder. So, I am changing things so that I can do what I can. Thus, I am now turning to YouTube and will be presenting my classes online. In hopes that they will do some good. If they help you, please like, subscribe, and even donate to the link in the description, because I have been self-employed since 2014 and do not have retirement savings, and I am a Medicaid patient, so I have to buy my own pain medicine because they quit covering it. So, any donations will help me to live my life out in self-sufficiency and dignity. Thank you for your time. I hope you enjoy my videos and get something out of them. So until next time, peace out, Reverend Angelia.